I'm Debbie Parker, and it's my great pleasure and privilege to be talking to John Chatham today, who's past sail captain and life member at Sandringham Yacht Club. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Deb. Great to be here.
So, how did you get into sailing?
How did I get into sailing? It's almost ancient history now. I got to know Jeff Beaumont because Jeff was a builder and carpenter, and I ran the Beecham proprietary medicines factory up in Moorabbin, and Beecham is a multinational pharmaceutical and chemical products type company, and Jeff was our guy from outside who used to come in to do maintenance on the building. So seeing I was responsible for the building, I got to know Jeff coming in and out to fix a leaking roof or to do something else we needed doing around the place. And I guess talking to Jeff, I sort of got to hear about Sandringham Yacht Club, and I think he might have started chatting me up to hope that he might get another crew member out of me. So that's how it happened. It was purely through that contact.
I'm sure he did try to get you to sail with him. So, and what did you love about sailing? What attracted you to the sport?
Well, I'd been in competitive sports. I was a middle distance runner up to a mile. So quarter mile, half mile, mile was the sort of thing that I was doing, and that's a pretty competitive grouping of people, and so I guess I always had a competitive attitude and interest, and sailing turned out to be very competitive, and that's why I was interested in it, and I liked it, and I liked the fact that we're on the water and out on boats and all the other good things that come with it.
And how did you come to first join Sandringham Yacht Club?
Well, once again, it was Jeff, because there wasn't any choice about that as far as he was concerned. And I started sailing with him on his boats, of course, and I was sailing here as sort of an introductory member, you know. So it was obvious that I was going to join Sandringham, and of course it was very local to where I live and all the rest of it. It was the obvious place. And you know, it's such an advanced club in terms of what it was doing at the time compared to the other clubs around the bay. A lot of them were falling apart, but this was the place where it was all happening at the time.
So I think, if I remember rightly, I think Jeff's boat that you were sailing on, was that Taurus?
Yes, we called it Little Taurus because there was a big yellow boat in the club, like a real big boat, and it was called Taurus also. So just to distinguish it, we nicknamed it Little Taurus, yeah.
And after that, you decided to buy your own boat?
Well, yes, I'm not too sure how that happened, but it was, I think it was to do with he was my best man at my wedding, a very good friend of mine, Bob Miller, who got interested in trailer sailors, and I think he might have bought his first, and given that I was already involved in sailing with Jeff and had the opportunity to buy a trailable yacht and sort of compete with him, it was too good, so that's what happened.
So the first boat you had, I think, was called Terry Kay?
Yeah, there's a bit of a story to that name. My wife's name was Kathleen, and my daughter's name was Therese. Yeah. And somehow one night, probably after a beer or two, I sat down and made it into Terry Kay by taking bits out of each of the two names.
Oh, that's fantastic. What a great story.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think, did you get into another class, a one design boat, Soling?
Yeah, sort of got carried away a bit, I think, there, but Soling is a top international class. I mean, it's Olympic stuff, and a magnificent boat to sail, and for some reason I bought the Soling and sailed that for a while. It wasn't something that I was going to commit myself to. To do it, you've really got to be prepared to travel and sail. You've got to go to America, you've got to sail over there, you've got to do all that sort of stuff. And that wasn't, really something I wanted to do.
Yeah, fair enough.
But great boat to sail, fantastic.
And then after that, I think it was, is that when you bought Island Trader, the FAR 1020?
Yeah, I bought Island Trader as a charter boat, and therefore it was based initially once we got it there in the Whitsundays for a number of years, and to me it was a business, and it went up there through Whitsunday Rent-A-Yacht, and I got to know the people very well at Rent-A-Yacht too. They managed the boat for a number of years until I'd stopped being interested in running charter boats, and we bought it down here and raced it here. Had a lot of really good use out of it.
You had quite a lot of success with racing Island Trader?
Oh, I think from what I can recall, we did pretty well in it. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little vague on where we finished in the West Coast. I think we won at least one of them, maybe more.
I've done a little bit of research in preparation for our chat with you today. So I do know that you're overall winner in the West Coaster in 1997 and 2001.
Oh, two of them. Good.
So also with the club, you were club champion in Div 2 in 1995 and then in Div 1 in 1996-97. You won both Div 2 and Div 1.
Yeah, that's pretty unusual.
It is very unusual. Did the boat get longer or faster, or how did you manage to switch divisions?
Well, from what you just told me, I must have won Division 1 after Division 2, so maybe I was starting to learn how to sail.
Excellent. And also I think when I was on board, we went to the inaugural Australian Keelboat Championships in Adelaide.
In Adelaide, that's right. We sailed the boat over, didn't we?
Yes, we did. So
that was a big effort, that one, to get across there.
Indeed. All right. So let's talk about the Sandringham Yacht Club. What was the club like when you first joined?
Well, we had a timber building that had served well, but was probably getting towards the end of its life. Had an upstairs area like the one at the moment does, but and the dancers there were big time. I mean, in a little relatively small timber building with more than 200, 300 people in it, jumping around at night. We found the weaknesses in the construction of the building very quickly. And the floor used to do this as people were dancing on it. I mean, I'm not exaggerating the amount of movement in it, because it was at the edges where they hadn't, when they built the brick building around it, they left the floor and the structure was there from the old timber building. Yeah. They put the walls around it, but they forgot to attach the floor to the walls at the sides.
So what do you think are the most significant changes since you joined the club? So the club today versus what it was like back when you first joined?
Well, from the point of view of assets in terms of buildings and things, it was very, very rough. And look at what we've got today. We've got the best club around. I mean, it's magnificent. And so the good thing about Sandy Yacht Club, it's always been managed professionally, in my opinion. Mm. And that meant that, when they needed to get money, they knew how to do it. And I think that's a key to it, is I had the opportunity to see many clubs that were badly run. And it's because the committees are elected and they're not really got the quality of people, perhaps is the best word, the quality of it, the competence of the people on them. They tend to have problems with issues like building and construction and even running the place sometimes. But with Sandy Yacht Club, it's always been run professionally, and when we've had a problem with our building, we pulled it down, we put up a new one, and look what we've got. It's fantastic. And the marina here, you had to, as you walked along the marina at high tide, the timber boards, you can still see them out there in places. used to float away from you, so you had to kick them back in before you could get up the marina, because it was fixed, and the tide used to come up underneath them, and just because all the bolts had rusted through, they used to want to float away.
Oh yes, it truly is a magnificent club and marina now, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's certainly, if not the best in Australia, it should be regarded as the best around. And the management, as I say all the time, is the key to it.
So just going back to your boats, so after Island Trader, you bought a Sydney 38 called 38 Degrees South.
My first boat was a trailer sailor. I don't know if I mentioned that before. Did I mention that?
Terry K.
Terry K, yeah. That was my first boat, and that was in the days when trailer sailors were, they were everywhere. And you could go anywhere and there'd be a race with trailer sailors in it, because everybody had them at home on their front lawn, as I had on. That's where I stored mine. It was in the front yard. And they just used to hook them up to their car and head off down to wherever and go racing.
That's right. So you did some Marley Points, I think.
We did a couple of those. I think we did all right in a couple, as I think you mentioned a minute ago, didn't you? So yeah, we did the Marley Point overnight. So this is a race in across the Gippsland Lakes at night. So it's quite a challenge.
And so on the Sydney 38, you're back into the One Design racing again. So
yeah.
How have you enjoyed the One Design racing?
There's no really, there's no substitute for it, because there are no excuses. Technically, if the boats have been managed correctly and haven't been fiddled with, then technically you should be able to jump on any one of those boats and win a race. And that's the way I've always treated it. And we've certainly done that with ours.
Absolutely. So what would you say are some of the most memorable boats and characters that you've encountered during your sailing career?
It's hard to remember all the boats. There've been a lot of boats. Certainly we were sailing in mixed fleets, but we were sailing as a class. So we had racing against other Sydney 38s, and that was good. But in terms of other boats, it's a bit hard to remember them all.
I'm sure, absolutely. There've been a lot of boats and a lot of people that you've...
as far as characters go, there were characters around, and in yachting you always find that there are characters around at time. But at the moment I sort of can't pick out the ones that I had sailing on the boats I was using sailing at the time.
That's absolutely fine. Let's talk about sailing again in terms of what would you say are the highlights of sailing?
I think the challenge is a great thing about sailing, and it's you're up against the elements and you're up against the physical properties of a yacht that's been knocked around by the sea or whatever and all the rest of it. So it's not like where you just go out on a footy field and you kick a ball from one end to the other and you hit the other bloke every now and then and try and knock him out. But on a yacht, you've got a technical challenge the whole time. So I like the technical challenge. I really think that's something great, and I don't have to hurt anyone doing it.
That's important. That's very good.
Yes, that's right.
So you've had a lot of activities and been involved in lots of things at the club over the years and in yachting more generally. I think with the Sydney 38s, you were in the Sydney 38 Association.
Oh yes, yeah. I was president of that, I think, for a while.
Sure, and you were sail captain at one point at Sandringham, and also therefore on general committee for a number of years.
Yes, a number of years. Yes, sail captain. That was great fun. That was good.
So I have to refer to my notes. There's a few little things that I wanted to make sure I covered with you.
You've been digging up things that I don't want to know about, David. Okay.
Digging up lots of things, John. Right. So you started Sunday Sailors.
Yeah, I did, because there was nothing going on in this place on a Sunday. It was empty.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is crazy. We've got Saturdays, we've got Thursday nights, we've got Wednesday afternoons. Mm-hmm. What's wrong with Sunday? They can go to church on Saturday night or whatever. So that was my attitude. And we started off Sunday Sailors. It's been really good, actually. It took off and it did well, yeah.
Yeah, it's still going strong, isn't it? Yeah. And also I think you're in addition to sale committee, and perhaps even while you're a sale captain or on sale committee, you were also running the training committee as well.
Oh, yes, I started that, yeah. We never had a formal training function here, and we started that, yeah. And I was, at Yachting Victoria, I was on all that sort of stuff. I was involved in the training there, and there were a couple of other committees there that I was very involved in at Yachting Victoria.
So I think, you were on the Keelboat Committee, I think it was called back then, wasn't it?
Yeah. I've got a suspicion I started that, but I'm not sure.
So with the training aspect, you actually reintroduced the navigation classes at Sandringham.
Yes, they died. Yeah, but they'd been prior to that, a fair time before. They had been very popular, and I thought, well, this is crazy. Let's get back into it. And of course, ended up doing a lot of the lectures for it too. So I had to bone up on my navigation.
And you put a lot of people in this club and outside of the club through navigation courses.
Yeah, a lot.
And you ran that for 11 years here.
Did I really?
Yeah.
God, I'm older than I thought I was.
So that was a really great thing to be doing at the club, and to get people trained up in navigation.
I think it's important. It's a pity that it's not still happening, because I'm sure there's a need for it still. People coming in who have not been trained in navigation still need it.
And I guess also looking a little more broadly at what you've done outside of the club as well, but more broadly for sailing. You started the AMS handicap system.
Yeah, that's right. The problem was that we only had the international system at the time, and
IRC,
IRC, was it IRC? Yeah.
IMS.
Well, yeah, you've given me the lead. That's great, Deb. Yeah, there were two international systems. IMS was called the International Measurement System, and this was a fully mathematical system based on a series of algorithms that had been written somewhere in the world, and was a very rigid operation that was expensive to have your boat fitted to rate on it, and expensive to use because they charged a lot for it. And then they had the other system, the second system, was called the IRC system, which was a British system, and it was less rigid, and had sort of been put by, I think it was probably put together by a bunch of yachties in England somewhere. But they were charging for that also a fairly high rate. And I sort of scratched my head and said, well, if these guys can create IRC, we can create an Australian equivalent to that.
AMS is the Australian measurement system that you created.
Yes.
IMS was the international one. Yep.
And IRC was if you like, the homemade system, which we used, or I used as a guide to create AMS.
Right, okay. So let's move on to another area of involvement that you've had in sailing. You started the relationship with Challenge, the fundraising for kids with cancer.
Yeah, I did, yeah. Challenge is a magnificent organisation. It's run by a guy I know very well, and
Dave Rogers.
Dave Rogers, and I'm pretty sure he started Challenge, and they literally just look after children with cancer, and they're always sort of trying to find money and things like that. And I got to know him very well, and.
Tell us how the relationship with Challenge started.
Challenge were the beneficiaries of any money we made from running the AMS. I think that's the best way to put it, that they were our charity of nominated charity. So we were always looking for ways of getting money from running something here. And I think there were probably other things that we ran, like social functions too, because they got the benefit of the money. It was purely a way here of getting some money back to Challenge and to look after the kids there who had cancer. Yeah.
And it's turned into a very big annual event. I think back in the early days we went up to Docklands and I think one year we might have gone to one of the clubs up in the north of the bay, Royal Yacht Club of Victoria.
Yeah,
I think
we did. We're Royals.
We had one.
We did Royals.
One year there, and they were big parties in those early days.
They were, weren't they? Yeah. Big booze-ups, I used to call them.
Yeah, no, they were great. So you've always been a very big supporter of teaching people to sail and training people, and a very big supporter of women's sailing.
Yeah.
So you lent me the boat, Island Trader, on a number of times to enter the Australian Women's Keelboat Regatta.
You always brought it back in good condition, I must say.
In one piece.
One piece.
Always put it back in one piece.
Was good condition.
That's right. We did try not to break anything.
Yeah. And you had a good crew there for a while, didn't you?
We did had a great crew. Yes, we certainly had Kate Mitchell and Robin Brooke. And various, lots of other people along the way. I'm probably going to forget some names if I try to name them all, but Trish Wallace-Smith as well.
Trish, yeah.
Marissa McManus, Chalkley. Yeah, a lot of people, and you've certainly had a big part in supporting women's sailing at the club. And you started Whisk. Rob Cook, I think it was, suggested that we should have a different sort of a women's race, and he suggested Whisk. I think he might have been sail captain at the time, and you picked that up and ran with it.
Women's Sailing Challenge, wasn't it?
That's it, yeah. Then I think you got Doris Little to help run it and to make it into
I think I did get Doris involved, and there was a good reason for that. Is I didn't want to keep running it, not from saying I didn't want to do the work, but I just had enough to do, and I wanted a lady to do that because it's a women's event, and her networking amongst the ladies was a lot more extensive than mine.
Yeah, and it's been very, very successful.
Yeah.
What would you say in sailing? What achievements are you most proud of?
Being able to go out on the water and race a keelboat, I think, is an achievement in itself, actually, especially when you get out and amongst some of the cowboys we've got. But I think, being able to sail a boat of that size and complexity with a crew is quite a challenge, and I think that's an achievement in itself, actually. And I love sailing and doing all of the trailable stuff with the around all the lakes and all that sort of thing was fantastic. I used to store my boat in the front yard, and all we did was back the car up to it, myself and Bobby Miller, and we used to sail it two up, and we'd be heading off to Gippsland or something to do a regatta. And it was a cheap boat in that respect, so it was great to have something like that to really get into yachting. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And what do you value most about being a member of Sandringham Yacht Club?
Oh, there isn't a better club in the world. Not that I've seen anyway. The Sandringham Yacht Club is a magnificent club, and even looking at it, from around the bay, Sandringham Yacht Club is the leader of clubs in the bay, if not in Australia. You've got big clubs up in Sydney, the Ocean Racing Club and those sort of clubs, and they're very big running events like the Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race. Well, we're not doing that here, and you can't take any away from them. They're doing a magnificent job. But I think Sandy Yacht Club's got a hell of a lot going for it. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks very much, John. Thanks for taking the time to have a chat with me today. And thank you for your contributions to sailing and to Sandringham Yacht Club. And bye for now.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's been a pleasure.